अब वर्चुअल जा रहे हैं. अगर if anyone wants to जो ना आप बता दें. आप बता दीजिए. ओके. छोटा सा जरा साइलेंट कर दूँ इन बिटवीन. Ramesh, should we start? Assalamu alaikum, good morning. This is Saad Ahmed Khan, and today we have two very distinguished guests with us. And let me just introduce our guest today for business legalities, and we'll be having a fireside chat with both of these gentlemen on business legalities, and not just legalities. We will also have some advices for startups in terms of opportunities, in terms of do's and don'ts. So let me just introduce our guest today. We have Mr. Adnan Riaz, and we have Mr. Usman Paracha with us. And without further delay, I would just like to request Mr. Adnan Riaz to introduce himself and what he has been doing, and just tell us something about yourself, please.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting us. In terms of the background, I started my IT career about 20 plus years ago, and last 14 years I was in US. Around 1 year ago I came back with my experience in IT. Most of them were startups to work with. So, and right now with the name of Sapient IT Services, we are establishing a new startup in Pakistan. The idea is to increase the export of the IT services abroad based on my experiences past there. And I'll pass it to Usman Paracha for the introduction.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity. We are absolutely honored. You have a great facility here. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Usman Piracha. वैसे तो वकील हूँ जी, लेकिन fortunately enough for the audience, I have a technical degree. My first degree is Computer Science Information Technology from NUST. So although I practiced law in 3 jurisdictions, the United Kingdom, the US and Pakistan, और most recently मैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान को एडवाइस कर रहा था on some of the most complex international disputes. लेकिन besides that मैंने गवर्नमेंट को टेक्निकल जो disputes थे, जो litigation हमारी हाई कोर्ट्स में थी, उसके ऊपर भी एडवाइस किया. और ये facilitation मुझे देने का बहुत शौक था. एक तरीके से मैं इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी और कंप्यूटर साइंस की डोमेन को हार्नेस कर सकूं कि जो गैप है इंडस्ट्री के अंदर, जो लॉयर्स और टेक्निकल हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स होते हैं, उसको किसी तरह ब्रिज करने में मैं अपना रोल प्ले करूं. तो इट्स बिन ग्रेट टू बी बैक आफ्टर अबाउट 17 years abroad, और लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू कंट्रीब्यूट.
I've known Mr. Usman Paracha for a good 18-20 years, I believe, and I've seen his journey, and I've been witness to his success, I would say, and it's been a lovely experience knowing him. Anyways, so let's start with Usman, and I would say let's break up, because these are, both of you have got like your own expertise, and both of you have, I would like to put spotlight on each one of you individually. So if I take Usman, like Usman, what is the legal function, and when a startup or any commercial organization, so what are the general legal aspects, you know, they have to look for once they are into a business, in terms of like their becoming a legal entity, starting from a legal entity, having some employment relations, you know, and once they start to interact with other businesses, you know, when the trade starts, so you are actually legally contracted with each other. So can you take like, explain one by one, so right from the beginning, becoming an entity, starting from an entity, and carry on forward. So what are the legal considerations one should have?
Absolutely. And may I just add to your very kind introduction, thanks to your guidance through those years that we have the great pleasure of knowing each other as brothers now, or we've been for each other through the journey. Adnan sahab, please assist me as I explain the answer, because he brings the technical aspect to
Sure.
the whole understanding of things. First of all, जी, very pertinent question. इसमें बहुत सारी जो हमारी startups जो एक mistake करती हैं, वो ये होती हैं कि जब वो initially अपने आप को present करती हैं as a company, they have either registered themselves with the SECP or they are practicing as partners. Now, the first, and I'm going to make this really brief, because we could talk about this, I have an entire 3-hour session on this, like, to be very brief, when you start your venture and you do not register yourself as a company, a limited liability company or a single owner company, you are running the risk of presenting yourself as a partnership. In fact, you are now a partnership, which means कि खुदा ना ख्वास्ता अगर आप डिफ़ॉल्ट करते हैं, आपका कोई अपोजिंग जो एंटिटी थी जिसके साथ आपने कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया और फॉर सम रीज़न द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज ब्रीच्ड, they can come after your assets. That's not just the company assets, but even your personal assets. In the words of one of my professors in England, he would say that in a partnership, the risk is that they could come for the buttons on your shirt. So always remember, before you want to build your application, go ahead, do it. But when you are about to hit the market, make sure you have registered yourself as either a limited liability company or a single owner company, which means that you're the only person, the sole owner of a company, but not a partnership. Because this means you have bifurcated the assets and the risks that could be vulnerable in a dispute with your personal assets. So your personal assets remain on the side. If the company fails, the company fails. You don't have to go bankrupt with it. ठीक है जी. दूसरा, when it comes to signing contracts, इसके अंदर what I have noticed is there are two
Just
primary.
hold on,
जी,
hold on.
please.
So what you recommend is like the safest mode is to become a limited liability company, and SECP, as far as the Pakistan is concerned, that is the venue and that is the organization which gives you the entitlement to become a limited company, and they are the bookkeepers of your company. So that is the take number one. So you have to be a limited liability firm, and that is the safest route, number one. Okay.
Let me add one
Sure.
more question to that as well. So being worked with so many startups, so one other question is at what time we need to register the company. So you know, like the startup is like you come up with an idea and it starts from there. So let's take one step back maybe. So I have a great idea just now. So now what are my next step before I set up a company, because that's a long step, setting up with the SECP or individual company or anything. First thing is, how do I protect my idea before I start sharing with any other people? How does that idea goes to a level of like company? Because I think of an idea, I don't need to register a company right there. So walk us through in that legal journey as well, especially the main concern, which in our economy, and not in only in Pakistan, it's a international issue, that when you have a great idea, you are always
Yes.
concerned. If I share with the company, bigger incubator centers and stuff, they hear it and they have all the mechanism to execute it right away. So how do I protect that, and how to go about that?
Again, wonderful questions here. Just to quickly add on what you very succinctly summarized. If you are a single owner, you can still register yourself as a single owner company. So sometimes the confusion is because I'm the only one, so perhaps I can't register myself or my entity as a company. That's actually not true. So SECP has changed those rules, and now you can. थोड़ा सा इसमें कैच क्या होता है जिसकी वजह से कंपनीज थोड़ी सी इससे परहेज कर रही होती हैं, वो क्या है कि you have to pay about you have to show about 1 lakh rupees in your account at any time to give the presence that this company has a bank account and it has a monetary sum. और साथ साथ ये होता है कि फिर every year you have to do your audit, taxes and everything. So that sometimes companies are averse to it. Personally, I think timing, as you said, to answer your question and also about innovation. Dekhiye, when you are about to share your idea and you are young grads right out of university, you probably will not be able to go around getting your idea patented. ठीक है, क्योंकि that is like completely out of the comfort zone. And it's the challenge with patent is every jurisdiction will have its own way of recognizing a unique innovation, and your innovation may or may not reach that threshold. So if you could patent your idea in Pakistan, it may not be patentable in the US or Europe, because they have different thresholds of what innovation is, and patent is only an idea which is innovative and can be commercialized. And I'm making that very general, but just to explain the audience. So not every idea can be patented. What is the way to go around it? Sign a non-disclosure agreement. Sign a non-disclosure agreement, have whatever company that is going to sit across you, sign the agreement and say, we will not share what information is to be given to us or provided to us. It is only for the purpose of this discussion, and we are not going to create the idea as will be explained by our colleagues. Or uske andar you can, once when you've explained the idea and you've had that meeting, you can have a second signature after the meeting which says, this was the idea, this is what we talked about, and this is what we've signed. So you don't have to explain the entire idea right at the outset. You can first have a non-disclosure agreement, then talk about the idea, and then sign something at the end which says, that was what we talked about, and this is what we are not going to disclose. This is going about in the most cost-effective, non-bureaucratic approach to young grads who've just launched themselves. So, sorry, did I answer your
that
question?
is,
Yes.
NDA is, it's been in practice. Some of the people, they're not aware of this option. And myself, we have been regularly practicing asking other people to sign NDA for us, and we have been signing NDAs for other people as well. So NDA is something which is very, it is at least a minimum level of agreement between two parties, like this is a confined information, not to be used and not to be disclosed at any stage. Taking further, so once the entities have been formed, so generally they will start some sort of a contract, they might hire a place for work on rental basis, that's an agreement. They might hire people. So company is legally bound to pay, and they have got some contractual agreements and legally bound to pay their employees, they're legally bound to pay the rents and other liabilities, So all of these are legal aspects.
Yeah. And just to add one small more point to the NDAs, so that's a practice which, as he said, like most of the people are following. Probably the next follow-up, and I'm trying to advocate like the people sitting here, like watching us, in terms of, I'm a young graduate, as we talked about, like we're focusing, trying to see what their questions are and what they are trying to achieve that. So NDAs, if I go just, I'm a young graduate, I don't have much access to like those complicated NDAs, and so we need your legal advice in terms of like just a basic NDA finding from that is sufficient enough, or do you recommend something very specific that would save us more?
So I have been assisting Adnan Saab on certain matters, so I've been working with Sapien IT, and thank you for that question. So the requirements, for example, for Sapien IT are more advanced, and wherever we've needed to sign a non-disclosure agreement, we've had to build something and craft something on our own accord. And since I am practicing, so I have, the luxury of providing that and honor of providing that assistance. Having said that, not every student will be able to carve out that time or be able to, fork out whatever fees may be associated. So uske liye, keep your NDA general, keep a general NDA, lekin for the idea, you can harken back to it. Once you've had the meeting, once you've talked about the idea, once you've been able to explain that on bullet points, then you can sign the second part of the NDA. So this is how I was suggesting to split the signing of your non-disclosure in two parts. Lekin just don't be over bureaucratic, because that may turn away some startups by saying, what are you trying to get here? I mean, what exactly idea is it that we cannot build on our own? So you can generally explain the idea in the first NDA, and if there is a room to build on it, then you can amend the first contract with the second part to it. Lekin all things considered, मेरे ख्याल में एक जो आपने बड़ी important जो बात आपने शुरू में एक highlight की थी कि जब एक company launch करती है, उसकी एक contractual agreements सिर्फ अपने employees के साथ नहीं होंगी, उस tenant के साथ नहीं होंगी, third parties के साथ भी होंगी, और entities होंगी.
Just to add on, I have the mic. Like, just to add, like, overall the product or the service or the kind of the business the startup is coming with, it should be legal ambit of the land of the law. Isn't it important?
Absolutely.
You know, we have certain products which are currently in terms of the legalities and the applicable laws, they are into gray areas like cryptocurrency. Sometimes, maybe 10, 15 years back, we had this problem with trading. There was no mechanism, there was no law which was actually looking after this segment. So this is also a very important aspect of the business you're coming up or the idea you're coming up. Does it fall within any legal ambit, or the country provides certain legal guidance and you are protected by law to carry out that business or not?
Again, you've, mashallah, hit the nail on the head. Ye common shared experience, fractionalization. He was thinking the same and we were smiling. Saad Saab has really understood the challenges of the industry. Absolutely. If there is a startup that launches a certain product which is in the gray area, there's a very likely chance, if not today, in the next 6 months, your company will be shut down. And you do not want that embarrassment. Because you will lose your reputation, you will lose your brand name, you will lose the momentum of whatever you were doing. Then, trust me, I've had people come up to me asking for help, and the best I've been able to do is to save them from being put in prison. But the company has gone, because that was a gray area, and that's it. So what we need to do about here is to work with the SECP. The SECP is engaging startups on different areas of cutting edge innovation. So for example, the area of cryptocurrency, the area of fractionalization, so on and so forth. Each of these industries is having what is called a sandbox. So in the sandbox process, SECP invites the public, the owners of such companies, to work with the SECP and to create a framework which will allow for them to operate in Pakistan and legally. So I understand Mark Zuckerberg saying move fast, break things, and I understand, you know, innovation being disruptive, but I must also remind you that Mark Zuckerberg is somebody who can hire a lot of lawyers in the flash of an eye.
He's got a lot of resources on his disposal.
So he absolutely can move fast and he absolutely can afford those risks. You don't want that bad reputation right off the bat. So always work within the legal framework. There is room for you to be innovative, and you should work with the required agencies to guide you through that process.
Fair enough. So would you like to add something,
Yeah, I
Adnan?
would like to add something here. So as on the same topic, as I mentioned in my initial intro, there are multiple startups which we have done, some very successful.
I think you have got a great story to share, I believe. Fire away.
Sure. So what he was mentioning in between these was on the same line. So one area which we started when I came back, I was looking like, okay, what about we do asset fractionalization? We do something on that. Pakistan is an economy where the real estate is only mostly for rich people. If you're like a multi-million dollar, not dollar, rupee, then only you can invest in the real estate. What about the smaller people? If I just have a smaller amount of money, how do I invest in that? So if we can come something up with asset fractionalization for that. And that's where I actually reached out to him as well, like, okay, what is the legal structure? And as that was pertinent, relevant to your question, like if you have an idea, we have to see if this idea follows whatever legal laws are applicable in the country. So we did work on it, and that's where we found out that that's something which is under process. We don't have anything yet in terms of the legal framework, how that idea could work in terms of the legal framework. So in those cases, it is a good idea. So we still believe it's a good idea. We have it in our box to pull it up whenever the legal framework is ready for that in Pakistan. If it doesn't get ready, it's going to be only.
Is it about the read options?
Read options, if you can explain.
Really something like I believe it's one of the new fractional investment opportunities. It's been worked out by SCCP. I believe some of the companies are in queue to get themselves registered, and that is like you are not the owner of a single unit. You can invest into per square meter of something,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is
something
the
like
case.
that.
That is the case. Yes. So we exactly. So that's the domain, and actually, it's for what our analysis was that it could be a good economy booster for Pakistan. One of the area why we wanted to, and we still want, even if not us, somebody else, because it's at the end of the day, it's our country which has to move forward.
It is just like, it's like a share market.
Share
You
market.
just break up the whole property into smaller portions and you put that thing up in the market so that,
Correct.
as per your own purchasing power and investment
Correct.
bucket you have available, you can just go and chip in. Okay, I have just 100,000 rupees, I will just buy 1 square meter
One
of it.
square meter. Exactly. So you get more, and that also in.
But I believe from legal perspective, do we have a framework for it?
It's under process. So what I would suggest is, and to quickly add on what Adnan Sahab has very rightfully stated, the fractionalization can also branch into other areas. So property being one, but you can also fractionalize a lot of other assets if you would like to. Agricultural
So-
land, yield.
Will it be considered as a parallel market from stock exchange market?
See that
It is
see,
stocks.
see,
These are stocks.
that is exactly why the SCCP is taking a lot of attention, is giving a lot of attention to this, is taking time. I know entrepreneurs can get frustrated with the bureaucracy of things, but really, this really, SCCP is trying to move as fast as it can to put together a framework which is under construction. So very recently they did have a sandbox, and they did invite participants from different companies to sit with them and tell them what exactly they felt this framework should have. Now that framework, before this framework was put out, before this invitation was put out, they were making their own initial framework, which if you go on their website, the SCCP's website, they have the entire process presented there. So it's not there yet, to answer your question, but it should be. And we have the opportunity to be a part of the discussion and not jump the gun and do something which puts us in
Do
trouble.
we have any international precedences regarding this modalities?
We do. So there is, the US has done similar things. I believe Canada has done something similar. Dubai has done something similar. But we must understand that their economies, their banking structures, their processes are different from us. And exactly like you said, our regulatory requirements, what is legal, what is considered betting, could be an issue. So there are cultural aspects along with whatever legal framework we have or that
Agreed.
we need to
So,
have.
just to, I would like, since we are, confined to, I would love to chat.
I
the whole
still have
day.
to answer your question about the...
I would like to jump you to the contract side, because that is something which needs to be understood. What are the major issues, major concerns? One should have them in writing. What are the major clause one should definitely consider while signing a contract? And how to avoid any ambiguity. Obviously, just to start with, my personal advice would be, if you're signing an illegal agreement with any party and it is of some value to you, you should always take a legal advice from someone who's professional. Having said that, what would be your advice on major components of the contract? What is a contract, and what are the major components of that contract? Please.
Again, very, very useful question there. You must remember that before you sign a contract, please register yourself as a company, right? So we've got that, we've discussed that. Now that you're signing the contract, you need to understand that first of all, I must stress this. you will have to read the whole thing. We are so attuned to pressing accept on softwares, on website, whatever, that we don't exactly have the time to read terms and agreements. But this one is different. This one associates with you directly. Read all of it. Now, some of those are problems and pitfalls that I have seen, and I'm being very general here, is usually when it comes to timelines. Timelines on payments, timelines on deliverables, timelines on trying to settle a dispute. So if you give yourself the opportunity to understand that there will be possibilities and there will never be a case where you put all that you want in a contract. A contract will be limited at the end of the day. It cannot encompass all possible avenues in writing. There will be things that the contract will not have. So you have to have a clause that provides the avenue of discussing any differences. I won't say disputes specifically, but yes, disputes as well, through three mediums: conciliation, mediation, and arbitration. The difference between all of these three is, and to be very short, consider conciliation as a process which parents do at home. When children fight, parents try to reconcile them. They have an authority, not legal authority, but certainly a lot of moral authority. And in our traditional families, that comes with the weight. Not much of a choice. So, and good for us. So, mediation is what, say, for example, is the three of us. We're all friends. We need to settle a dispute. We all have respect for each other. Say, we need to sort something out. We seek Adnan Saab and we say, Adnan Saab, could you please help us understand what needs to be done? And Adnan Saab has an idea of both our industries, and he is a favorable candidate for us, so he settles the problem for us. He's like a brother. Mediation is what siblings do amongst themselves. Arbitration, however, is still somewhere between taking the case to litigation, which is the courts, and mediation and conciliation. So arbitration is the third person who is an expert in the industry. They don't have to be a lawyer, they don't have to be a judge, they have to be an expert. But all associated parties have decided that whatever the arbitrator will decide will be a binding decision. So whatever the arbitrator is going to say is now going to be binding in the courts of law. Therefore, the arbitrator holds the position of a judge in settling this dispute, but the difference between taking it to litigation and settling it in arbitration is cheaper, it's faster, it's quicker, and you get to choose amongst the parties that are signing the contract what arbitrator they want. Do they want an expert in the industry, or do they want a lawyer, or do they want a judge, or do they want a third person who has a good reputation of settling disputes? So the dispute resolution clause is the second thing that I would like to highlight here. The third, sorry, that's actually the third. The second was reading the whole contract. And the fourth, again, I must stress this. I worked at one of the leading telecom companies right out after graduating. So it's not only that I have a technical understanding as a student who graduated from NUST, I also worked in the industry as well. Without naming the industry, the employer, there were instances where I know that contracts were signed then. Looking back, I can see what the problems were, that whoever was signing from the other side did not have the authority to sign. Have we checked that the other person who is signing the contract is authorized to commit the company? Because if they're not authorized, and you can still work around it, I'm not saying this is the end of the day and that's it, you're done, they're going to run away with your money. But if they are not authorized, it's going to open up another avenue of problems.
Even I've just recently experienced some of the tender documents. There are a lot of organizations, especially the government organizations, they would ask for the power of attorney from the person, like he's authorized to sign the tender document. You know, so authorization is definitely, you need to make sure. What is force majeure?
Right, force majeure, you see, that's a helpful clause to have. Force majeure is some event which was out of your control. In English law, it's explained as events that are force of nature, a storm, a hurricane, acts of the divine. Other than that, also some chaos that just turns the world upside down, and that it was unexpected. No one saw it coming, which gives the company room to fall short of completing its obligation. Because, say for example, there was a crisis of a sort, therefore the company was not able to fulfill its promises, but all in good measure. It's not like you can just run away and disappear because there was a storm and that's it, goodbye. Eventually when the storm settles and things come back to life, you have to get back on track. So there is a gap that you can afford to have for the fact that there were circumstances out of your control that stopped you from completing a binding contract.
All right. So now let me switch the gear to Adnan. Adnan, what are the tech opportunities you're actually looking for these days? Do you have any, what is the landscape right now? And what are the specific opportunities you're looking for?
So there are two main industries. One is obviously the fintech, and the second, everyone is talking about AI. So we are kind of in the both domains, looking for the opportunities. Here we also want to see like what actually the AI boom, you will say, these days. Everyone wants to pick a piece of it, like what we are getting into, which is kind of like a new era and kind of like what we have seen after Facebook, and that could be the next one. What matter is to understand what this current sector is. So basically AI is there for a while. It's not something new phenomena. What we believe is the new machine learning, which that's what we have advanced in these days. So these new languages are now able to not only understand the more complex data, but also make better decisions as well. This has also been tried before. It's not like everything is new here. Everything is there in the block. It just got to a point where we feel like now it can do much more better job. And something which aligns to this session we have here in AI as well. As you probably would with OpenAI, there were so many concerns which were raised, like the monster we have created.
Yes.
Some people said about that. That goes to the same thing. So yes, there are unlimited opportunities open. There are a lot of processes which can be completely automated. Now you don't need to read a book. If you just need to get an idea of what that book is about, you can give it like a
Hold on. You're actually jumping to my next question actually. We know we cannot resist AI.
Oh, yeah.
That is for sure. Okay. How would you take on this one? Like, has the AI technology, specifically generative AI, has actually risen the bar?
It did. And in terms of raising the bar, I would say now people will anticipate. I still remember, as I said, like I'm old folk, 20 years ago when we started. I still remember those days when people will be fascinated with like computer can do this and stuff like that. So now we are getting, at least in my life cycle, feeling the same kind of people behavior from that AI. Oh, the computers,
the buzz is there. Yes,
machines can do this much thing. Like I don't have to read the whole book, and it can just give me this.
Yes.
It can even watch a movie and say, okay, this genre is about like actually we don't have to go with the wording which the movie maker says, but it can analyze that. It can analyze the pictures and give me all the captions and whatever I need to do. So those are quite few human capabilities which we thought only human can do what a machine would do, but now those have been done, so people are fascinated.
So in order to remain relevant in this world, so you have to adopt to the AI, you have to adopt to the technology, you have to stay in the race with them. That might be in a case like there are a lot of people who might actually, the jobs would be washed away, and AI will take over a lot of employment opportunities.
Yeah. I have a practical example of that. So as one of my current company, that's called Air Health, so we do medical record keeping for our doctor offices. It's a completely US-driven market product built here in Pakistan, but we completely market in US market, and medical offices uses our system. So for the medical record keeping, it's a whole billing, complete all in one suite, so it's for them. So now coming to that, the documentation part of like patient charts, it is kind of a very cumbersome. There are like thousands of companies, you will be surprised, who offer these kind of solutions.
Yes.
We're one of them. That's always a question. Like,
Do you think medical transcription services, you know, where the audio notes from the doctor were actually transcribed and documented, would you think this market will exist in another 5 years' time?
I don't think so. No. Because the way it is already progressed, that speech to text model, that's already so advanced that you really don't need a kind of like that, a person sitting the audio and documenting that. And then also there are more capabilities now, like as a doctor you can also update. And we do have created an app already for that. We are using that. So there are some of the doctors who still used to like prefer in terms of sitting the computer.
It is certainly a matter of concern, you know, for me as well. I know a lot of people who have engaged in this business for the last 15, 20 years. I know someone very close to me, a close relative, and he's been in this business for last 20 years. He's into his late 50s, you know. So career change and switching over to something else would be something, you know, it might be a disastrous option for a person who is into his late 50s. And down the line, he sees like in the next couple of years' time, whatever I've been earning from, it won't be there for me.
That is so true, and it's always the case with technology. Whenever
Yes.
new technology comes, it's always challenges the current existing framework. How do you work and how do you change? So as many people say, change is the only thing which is a constant.
So you have to,
we have to just adopt to the new realities.
technology
of the world.
is disruptive.
We cannot stay that there are people who are dependent on this thing and that thing, and then we cannot continue that. And it will change. If we can prolong that for a while, but it cannot prolong forever. So as I said, change would be the only thing which will be constant. So, and again, we also have, like my personal opinion in always, there was a meeting which we were having with some people with the same company in health. So there was a question asked like, okay, what is the benefit of your software, like as compared to the other so many vendors who are offering the kind of the same solution? How much? So one of the person said like, okay, can you say that your sister, because these automated AI solutions, can you get rid of one of my receptionists? So people can, now the bots can take the call, they can schedule an appointment, there are so many automated mechanisms, can they take the job? And that's kind of like aligned with your question, and that's always a challenge. And we normally say like, we don't try to take the jobs. Technology is not there to take anybody's job. It's to make their job easier. So what we want to do with technology is to make your life easier. What you are doing, putting a lot of man hours in there, we want to make your life easier in any way, so you have a quality time both at work and at home. Think of the projects or things which improve your quality of life. So if you have a bad quality of life, it is in society, in a country, and globally, it's a bad equation. So if you are not happy at home or at work, you are going to produce equivalent results at your work. So giving you a relaxed environment in terms of giving you the tools which basically enable your job, making it easier, is basically the technology.
Yeah.
And these, yeah.
Sorry, not to interrupt you.
So kind of like that is our focus in terms of whenever we do a startup, and that's how like personally our approach is, that how we approach other solutions and stuff. The rest again, job nature will change, and I would say like even I was talking to Usman the other day that even the legal framework, that's kind of a very heavy job in terms of like writing those legal contracts and all that stuff, and that's going to go away. There is a lot of jobs which are going to go away, who are just sitting there and typing those contracts. That's
even I can feel the call center, the call center business will not be there.
For sure, it would. And I normally say like it phase out. So initially what happens, that's my personal experience, when these kind of technologies come, and as let's take your transcription example. So if there are like 100 people doing that transcription, it's not going to be 0 all of a sudden. That will go to 80, 50, 10, and 5.
So it's going to be a gradual process.
And then it also is an opportunity if you look at it the other angle.
Other way.
Why? Because if there is a lot of jobs and there is a lot of resources available to do that job, it's not as much worth paying. So the only 5 jobs after this revolution which will remain, there will be still some jobs.
Oh yes.
So why that would be? I'm giving you a use case in that. So even though I work with doctors and stuff, like I know how their mentality works for that. So even though if this AI comes, as I was saying, like when you are reading and it's going to do accuracy, but because it's a medical record and there are legal binding documents. So once you say something in document, okay, this is my document, this is what I said the patient has, it can come back and haunt you if you did something wrong. So many of them, younger generation might be like okay to read that, correct that, and be update that. But there might be, as I said, like 5% of the jobs may still remain there because some doctors will say, I said it, you hear what I said, and you see what the AI did, and you still fix any legal issues which I might encounter. So those will be the
Who's going to be the responsibility bearer actually? I will share a very interesting story with you afterwards. So just to conclude, since we are short of time and it's been a wonderful experience having both of you here and host you. The last question I would put to Usman would be, just for an entrepreneur, for any startup, or for an established business entity, most of us, we do not come from legal background, we haven't studied law. So is there any shortcut for any entrepreneur, any startup, where they can just go through the basics of law, so that they have the basic understanding of the terminology, the legal process, what are the venues, any short-term course, any document which you like to recommend, where someone could actually make sense, out of the whole legal documents and difficult terminologies and legal, vocabularies. It doesn't make sense to most of us, So would you recommend any short-term learning program or something which is flexible and helps the people to make sense legally?
That's a difficult question to answer, because you see the problem with, वो कहते हैं ना उर्दू में जो मुहावरा है कि जो अब मैं उसको ख़राब करके प्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ, मुझे माज़रत से भूल रहा हूँ, कि जो आधा पढ़ के कुछ करता है वो फिर
कुछ और ही हो जाता
है। कोई डॉक्टर है वो नीम
हकीम खतरा है जान,
ये तो सर वो मैं उस पर थोड़ा सा इसलिए अवेयर्स हूँ कुछ सजेस्ट करने के लिए कि फिर एक ले पर्सन के लिए इतना शायद उसको फैसिलिटेशन हो जाए कि वो किसी लॉयर के साथ अच्छा इंटरेक्शन
कम्युनिकेट कर सके।
उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से मैं आई वुड से कि बिल्कुल व्हाट आई हैव नोटिस्ड इज हार्कनिंग टू द पावर ऑफ एआई, ChatGPT is a good start.
Good.
Yeah, I have seen उसमें ठीक है hallucination का थोड़ा सा problem है, लेकिन all things considered, if you want to break it down to a very simplistic answer, to raising it up to whatever level you want, you will be in a very comfortable position to understand what is going on. I'm not suggesting you go out and fight your case in the court of law, but at least understand what is going on once you're in there. और थोड़ा सा sorry मैं अगर divert कर रहा हूँ, आपकी जो input थी, can people reach out to you with the facilitation of AI? I understand Sapien IT is already providing these facilitations to the medical industry. So it's transferable in terms of knowledge with what you're providing to doctors now that you would have to provide to, say, call centers or telecom companies or whatever. Is that?
Yeah, definitely that is an option, and that we are already working on. One of the area is that kind of like the front office for any medical office to completely like make it human free. Again, as I said like to him earlier, it's whenever we say completely, it's not completely free. It's at the end of the day, there is always an option to talk to a person. But yeah, most of the processes we can. And I think that's one area which we are recently working more. And I think we probably are close to our finishing time. So maybe I will just add one, like from my personal experiences, add one thing to that. So because the today's topic was like we are trying to cater the new upcoming talent, which who are trying to make their way out. Again, as you said, Mark Zuckerberg has so much resources at his hand, and again, the bigger companies who are already established has the same thing, so they can figure out their legal resources. But the main problem is for the people who are not established yet. They are trying to make their way out, and for that we had, I think, as a good discussion. But I want to add one more thing there for them not to be thinking it as like, oh my God, we are missing so much and we might be in so much trouble because we are not following the legal. So that is not the case for those people. Just to not make them so much scary of that. So I think the main focus of them should be still remain there to be innovative, to try entrepreneurship. That has to be done in this country a lot more as compared to what we are facing now. People like us, we are already trying how much we can facilitate. For example, we talked about as my experience is more systems which are used outside of Pakistan. So the legal infrastructure is different. So the laws here versus laws there. So the system is used in US. So obviously the data protection law in US is different. There is a Patient Privacy Act which protect their privacy in US. Now, we working as a Pakistani company with that kind of a architecture, how do we manage that thing? That's one thing we probably have to deal with when we reach to that level. And then if you have reached that level, then I think you will have resources to hire a good attorney or a firm to take care of you. But I think the focus of the startup should be still remain on the innovation. This topic, what we discussed here, is to get them aware of what their legal needs are, what they should have in back of their mind, and when they reach there, they don't forget, we didn't do the NDA, and somebody else is taking our idea.
It's leaked out.
Didn't. Yeah. So that the whole purpose of, I would say, was that. But I would still recommend doing the same good job. All these things are, because that's kind of.
Don't be scared away.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be scared away.
Yeah, exactly.
Just jump into the pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the platform. I know there will be questions. You can reach out to me with regards to any legal questions you have. Website is www.p, as in P for Pakistan, IRACHAS.com. So just reach out to me if you have questions. We can answer them.
We'll do that, inshallah. Thank you very much, Usman, and thank you very much, Adnan.
Thank you for having us.
It's been lovely, and it's been a pleasure having you here. And hopefully we'll be requesting you back again sometime in July, August, once we have the complete forum available here, and we'll have, maybe we would arrange a one-to-one interactive session with startups for you. Like if someone likes to have an individual advice from your expertise from both of you, I would say.
For sure, we would love to.
We will definitely be arranging a number of sessions for you. Not another session, a number of sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.